YouTube, welcome back to Peterson Auto. Today,
On the 01 Jeep Cherokee, we're going to show you how to do a wheel bearing. Yeah, it's doing a U-joints in the
axles on this and need wheel bearings too, so we're going to show you how to do that on a separate video here. We already have it jacked up and have the wheel off to just cut to the chase. You should know how to do this as far as the basics go, so I'm just going to give you a rundown. Take off the caliper, take off the caliper bracket, remove the rotor, and then you're going to remove this cotter pin, and then remove the locking nut here, the castle nut portion of it, and then take the actual axle nut off, and then we'll have to take the hub out. So I'm going to get the basics done where we remove the caliper. We go ahead and get this out, and I'll get to the we'll come back on the axle nut because most of that's fairly basic. I've covered it before. All right, YouTube, we now have the rotor off. On the front side we have the locking castle nut and cotter pin out. You see the hole where the cotter pin goes in. We're gonna break this loose after I get all the wheel bearing bolts loose. That's because it's a little easier to get the wheel bearing bolts loose when you have everything in place. So, coming to the back side, and there's a bolt here, and one on the lower position on the other side on the front of the spindle. They are all 1/2 inch 12 point. These things are usually really tight and need quite a large breaker bar to get loose. However, I did do the 3/8 Harbor Freight extendable ratchet and a pipe, and you know, that seems to have held up. So yeah, we're gonna get that other front bolt out, and we're gonna break this large nut here off. This you'll do with a very big breaker bar and a pipe, typically 1/2 inch drive stuff. I actually have some 3/4 inch drive sockets I use for this exact type of thing, so we'll probably break that out today. But yeah, just remember that that is going to be one of those hard to get to or hard to get off objects. So I'm loosening all the back bolts first that hold the wheel bearing on. As you can see, there's one right there sticking out still. After we loosen all those and get them loose, we know they're going to spin in and out. We'll break this loose and we'll come back and we'll take the wheel bearing off after removing those 3 bolts on the back. Okay, YouTube, we got the nut loosed. We used a big old 3/4 inch drive breaker bar designed for use with pipes, and it's about 3.5 foot piece of pipe. And I just pretty much you know, cradled the pipe and leg pressed, and it broke. So you gotta put a lot of effort behind these. You can see how I have the bar here holding the studs. Give you a quick demo on that, hopefully. There you go. So you can see how when I turn it, the bar holds the axle in place. That's the best way to do this that I found. You may mess up a stud or two, but if you have it placed in there well and it doesn't slide, I've yet to have an issue with it. So we're gonna get this nut the rest of the way off, and then we're going to pull the hub off. Look at that, YouTube. Shiny, brand new hub. So the hub slides over top. Use your 3 bolts to pull it in. We broke one off, so turns out AutoZone doesn't keep these in stock. I don't know why. If they were smart, they'd be selling, doing an upsell on every single hub they sell with new bolts, because these bolts always rust, they always corrode, and about half the time they snap off. So, but I didn't plan on doing hubs on this or the bolts, but yeah, so we had to do that. So we're gonna actually snipe out a little part and make a hub install video too, which is gonna be the same exact process, just don't pull the axle shaft. However, if you're in there, you might as well do the U-joints while you're at it. I mean, it's definitely not gonna hurt. So we've got the 3 bolts here. We got the 3 bolts here, here, and here in place and tightened. I'm going to put the nut back on. I'm going to put the blower back on and just give it a good heave. There's probably a torque spec for this. I may look it up and do that. A lot of the time with these unit bearings, it's tight is tight. You know, you're just pinching it in there. They're not too critical, but there is a torque spec for it, and you should use the torque spec when you have it available. Sometimes they're really obnoxiously high, so if you have a 150 foot-pound torque wrench, you know, just throw an extra quarter to half a turn on it, make your best judgment, you should be good. They're not very precise on their torque specs, you know, pretty much just really tight and you're good. So we're going to get this back together, get the brakes on, get it all wrapped up, finish up the other side, and call that a day. Okay, you two, there's one more thing to remember here. That is the pattern of these miscellaneous washers, etc. The big metal washer goes on, then the little steel flat washer, which you'll see here in a second after I spin this on and back off. That little steel flat washer, it's kind of wavy, so wave washer goes on, and then your nut goes on. After that, your retaining tassel nut goes on, and the cotter pin goes in. So just to give you an idea of how that assembly works in case you do take things apart and not remember where it goes. Now you have a reference. Well, YouTube, everything's back together. The reassembly process is
The same exact thing as
disassembly. So
the bolts that hold the hub on, tighten those down good, tighten down your
spindle nut good, put everything back together, and you're good to go. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and keep watching Peterson Auto.